doors open, kids find a safe space. That 3 gaming doc fights the grind each day. From the joystick low to the streets ballet. She's the voice that echoes the restless hum. Hardcore hero where the city drums. She drove out of Cali where the sun went red. Found a home where chaos and dreams are bred. The city roars but her wheels still roll. Streaming at night with a fierce heart soul. That 3 gaming dog fights the grind each day. From the joystick low to the streets ballet. She's the voice that echoes the restless hum. Hardcore hero where the city drums. They laugh, they cheer when her streams go live. Green glow shining, she makes them thrive. Kids in the morning don't see her night. She hides battles fought by screens, strange light. Driving their futures down bustling streets, filling small lives with the simple beats. She carries their dreams while chasing her own. Walking roads never leave her alone. She drove out of Cali where the sun went red. Found a home where chaos and dreams are bred. The city roars but her wheels still roll. Streaming at night with her fierce heart soul. They laugh, they cheer when her streams go live. Green glow shining, she makes them thrive. Kids in the morning don't see her night. She hides battles fought by screens, strange light. Driving their futures down bustling streets, filling small lives with the simple beats. She carries their dreams while chasing her own. Winding roads never leave her alone.
Well, greetings, gamers. This is Dr. Eileen, the gaming doc, the driving doc, for one more week. And this is your place and your space to laugh, to chat, to chill, to hang out, to take a moment, to take a break, to take a breath. And man, it is raining outside. I mean, raining a lot. I mean, a whole lot. It's me, it's Arby, and our guest host, Oreo. Oh, goodness. Iron Eagle, my eagle of iron, just got cooked by my toddler. Got called fat when she poked my belly button. Don't know how to feel, but I'm offended. Glue sniffer, I resonate so profoundly with that. Oh my gosh. That is a truly difficult moment when the aspect of a child's honesty goes a little too far. But, and however, we must acknowledge our first 3 champions across the gate, just like at the Olympics, coming in for the gold. My absolute eagle of iron, Iron Eagle, coming in for the silver with the southbound end of a northbound unicorn. And it's raining beans. Hallelujah. And coming in for the bronze, we have our very own scion of sinuses, the one who is a part of the glue that holds this stream and this community together. Glue sniffer. Champions, just like at the Olympics, take your places on your risers, wrap yourselves in your national flags as we play your national anthems. But oh my goodness, how's your nights been? Oh my gosh, it is It is I didn't sleep well last night, but I think it's that last week of school that is always the longest week. And we have our own royalty who will always be that prime homecoming king, Big Bruce 3. Hello, sweetheart. How are you? All hail King Big Bruce. Yes. How are you, Big Bruce? And hydrate. Iron Eagle, good morning. Doing good. Just had a great therapy session. We love that. Oh my goodness. Sometimes and I am of the personal opinion that everybody has their answers inside them. They just need the right questions to reach those answers. And Big Bruce, you are doing big stuff to get those big questions, to get to those answers that are already a part of your innate wisdom. I am so proud of you. And oh, hydrate. We're having some tea. It's dandelion leaf and root tea with us a little bit of honey. Mm. I mean, and the thing is, okay, it's hot tea and it's actually kind of warm outside, which okay, as a Californian, rain goes with cold. If it's raining, it's cold. East Coast, it could be raining and 90 degrees. Anybody else confused by this? Asking for a friend. Is anybody else confused, up a little bit, by the idea that shouldn't rain be cold? Shouldn't rain go, first off, rain should just be in the spring and it should go with chillier weather. No. And see, then it gets all muggy and it's like all of the moisture in the air goes like up about 5 feet, which is right where I am. And oh my god, there is nothing like a muggy bus. If you've never been on a bus that has like windows that don't quite close all the way and it gets all nice and damp and sauna-ish on the inside. Ah! Let's see. There's a fine line between genius and madness. Oh, and we bounce that line around here a lot. And I surf it well. Good job. I mean, if the atmosphere is warm, the cloud is warm, right? Maybe just in a cold front right now. Oh my goodness. For anybody who is facing and thunderstorms as well. I was honestly surprised that there were any kids out to get on the bus because and their parents were out there with umbrellas. But it's like, I'm sorry, if I were a parent and it were summer and there's the kind of weather outside and I mean we've got flooding, all kinds of other stuff going on, that kind of weather, it's like, and no, you will stay home. But this whole week is supposed to be alternating rain and thunderstorms and all kinds of stuff, and it's the last week of summer school. But I do get some nice time off, and that is always nice because then we can do more streaming. Yes. And I can do some gaming, like midweek gaming. There's all kinds of cool stuff that can happen once summer school is over. And I will miss the kids. That's the thing. It's like when you drive a school bus, and yes, some of those little darlings can test your nerves and irritate you and be very feisty, but they're kids and they are learning how to manage in the world. They're still learning who they are. And I find that, when a kid gets very feisty, and I'll use the word feisty, and the kid's like, what's feisty mean? I said, okay, feisty is when you're getting all a little bit too much energy and you start doing things that you actually know you're not supposed to be doing. Right? Yeah. I said, that's feisty. And so at one point I heard one kid look at it, goes, don't be feisty. Yay! And I have found that when you are willing to look for the best, you don't, I mean, they're not going to be perfect. And yes, some days we have more patience than others. And if kids know that consistently you look for the best in them and you actually see it, it makes a whole difference. I mean, I had routes that nobody else wanted because the kids were, just very feisty. And when I would speak to them, and it would be, there was never anything personally about them. And if I did a correction, I made sure they understood. I said, look, if I'm telling you not to climb across the seats while the bus is moving, it's because I'm scared. I'm scared you're going to get hurt. And I do not want to see you hurt. It's my job to see you make sure you get home safe. I want you to be safe. I don't want you to get damaged. So that's why I say stuff. And, and if they start getting into a fight and I have to pull over and we have a little, talk. And when I say it, I said, and the only reason I'm this frustrated at you is because I know you're better than this. I know there's more inside of you. There is something amazing inside of you. And you're going to keep it a secret from the whole rest of the world for what? I said, show the world how amazing you are. Show them that part of you that I see. And if you can't see it even in yourself, trust that I see it. And that's why I'm frustrated. And it's like they just go, uh, uh, because they're not quite sure what to do with that. And when they hear good morning every morning, and within like a few days, I start hearing like a few good mornings back. And now, we're in the last week. They're jumping up on the bus. They're going, good morning, driver. Good morning, driver. Hey, and I say, oh my gosh, that's such a cute outfit. Or, wow, you got a haircut. Very sharp. And, one boy who is everybody was saying, what a problem he was. And you could tell, like, the kids that the teachers think are a problem because they get on the bus. It's like, all right, come on. And they'll even tell me, it's like, look, if you have any problems with him, then let me know. I said, I don't have any problems with him. He's perfectly fine. He's a delight. And for the school route that I drove, the school I picked up in the afternoon, which was kind of known for having some problem kids, and one of the teachers got on the bus and he's like fussing at them. And he looks at me in front of them and says, look, you write up everybody, anybody who acts up, I want you to write them up. And I looked at him and I looked at the kids. I said, I haven't had a problem. I said, they're an absolute delight. And he looked at me as if I had, grown like an additional head or something. And he goes, delights. I said, they are all just delights. And they're sitting there, it's like, and one kid, yeah, we're delights. And the teacher looks at them, and then he looks at me like, okay. And every once in a while he'd check, it's like, are they still delights? I said, absolutely. And one kid came up and it's like, why did you say that to the teacher? I said, because it's true. Yeah, but I mean, we yell a lot and sometimes you tell us to settle down a little. And I said, look, that doesn't mean you're not a delight. I said, that means you're a young person who's still figuring out how to act in the world. And it can be very tough to be a young person sometimes. And I understand you guys get excited and you get your energy a little wound up. I said, but that doesn't mean you're not a delight. And it was like after that, suddenly, if I said something is like, okay, let's calm it down a little bit. Okay. Kids need good role models in every adult. Exactly. People can only learn how to live if you teach them how to live properly, free range without boundaries and respect. Kids need responsibilities and purpose. Yeah. I make it a point to treat every child I meet with unconditional love and concern for their characters and souls. Souls. Kids will be kids. Let them be kids. And that's an important thing. It's the idea that, when adults start holding kids to an adult standard. It's like, well, they should know better. And I say, how? Why should they know better? How can they know better if they're still learning it, if they're still experiencing it? I said, we can't hold them. I said, and oh, by the way, there's adults that act out too. So what's their excuse? I said, but these kids, and some of them live in very tough environments. They don't live in, the white picket fence house in the suburbs. They're in the projects. And they need to have the knowledge that somebody believes in what they can be, that where they live does not determine what they're capable of. And some of the other drivers, they just look at me and go, you are so Californian. And it's like, yes, yes, I am. But, and however, they do notice. It's like, you never write kids up. I said, I have, but it's rare because, it's first off, it really doesn't do that much. And when I talk to them, it's like, hey, we need to sort this out. Or if I talk to their parents, I had one boy and he was a little feisty from day one. And his mother came up and she had that look. I said, you know what? You've got a good kid. He just needs to practice being able to kind of calm himself down and not get so excited. I said, that's not a problem. And we're going to work on it together. And I gave her my phone number. I said, if you have any questions about anything, you let me know. And if you would like a report on how your kid's doing, I can supply that. And, and I'd send out a note. It's like, oh, they did really good today. They got a little bit energetic, and when I asked them to calm down, they did. And parents just love the idea that I will let them know when their kid is doing good, because the only time they hear, and one lady, she was almost in tears. She said, and her son is, in that on the spectrum, and she said all she hears about is when he's loud. All she hears about is when, he can't calm down. I said, look, he's fine. I said, he's absolutely fine. And if he wasn't, I'd tell you. But I don't have a problem with him. And, she goes, thank you. Thank you for seeing something more in him. I said, because it's there. I call it like I see it. But, kids are smarter than you think, see more, and can understand more than we understand. Exactly. And the idea that you can't lie to these kids, because I know that when I say to them, it's like, you know what, you're better than this. There is something amazing in you. They look at me and they know I'm telling them my truth as I see it. And, you know, kids, you cannot fool them for very long, if at all. Kids are very good at reading adults. And if you try to, hey, slugger, hey, how about we, do this and do that? It's like they know the drivers who are talking about them behind their backs, just like they know the teachers who are talking about them behind their backs. And I will tell them in a minute. I said, look, if I have something to say to you, I will say it to your face. I will tell you you need to calm down. And if it's a day that I'm not feeling particularly patient, I will let you know, because I will tell them, it's like, look, today's not a good day for driver. All right. Happy driver is in a little bit of question here. So how about if we dial it down about 1,000 RPMs and we can all get home and enjoy ourselves. Okay. Were you okay? I said, well, today I'm not quite as okay as I could be. And they respond. They go, oh, okay. And sometimes it's like, I can hear him back there. It's like, shut up. She's not feeling good today. We don't want to lose her. So, we need to normalize. We need to normalize bringing out people's true potential. Exactly. Kids need to help to discover who they are and what they have gifts for. Ding, ding, ding. They need focus, direction, personal goals, and for them as individuals within the interdependence of life. I mean, it is because, I mean, we can all remember when we were kids. And for me, growing up, being a kid in the 60s was like, first off, any adult could hit you. Second, every teacher could hit you. And it was, basically you just tried to stay below everybody's radar because, oh, what was the phrase that they used to use with us? Well, they're bright, but they're not working to their full potential. There was always some little insult, some space where we still didn't quite measure up. And the idea that, I mean, people would say is like, oh, how many people heard this? It's like they daydream too much. They don't pay attention. They don't focus. They're not working to their full potential. They're lazy. I mean, people used to feel free to call kids things like lazy and slow and a daydreamer. And, it's like, well, they don't pay attention. And that was normal. I mean, we just heard all that stuff. And I remember how much we'll allow that, how much it would affect me because I always felt like the only time I got attention from teachers, and now there were some teachers that were absolutely amazing. And, one of my favorites, there was a teacher who would help me because I stuttered. I stuttered really bad when I was young, and she helped me learn how to speak in a way that I could be understood. And I had a few teachers. One thought I was very good at writing, and so she told me that I should be a writer. And so, it is that thing where, and all it takes is just that little bit of encouragement. And I've told the story about the route I had not this past year, but the year before, where a young boy, and I mean, he was like a fourth grader. The teachers all warned me about him, saying that, he was a problem and just write him up. The previous bus driver, whose bus he was on, is like, look, he's a troublemaker, just write him up. And all I could think was like, whoa, this kid's a fourth grader. He's not on, the FBI's 10 most wanted list. And he was coming down, like, they had this little ramp from the door, and he was coming down the ramp, and the teachers were like, we don't want any trouble from you. And it's like, oh, that must be him. And he gets on the bus and he won't even look at me. And I said, excuse me, are you? And I said his name. And he just stopped. And I said, you know what? There is greatness inside of you. There is strength inside of you. There is something amazing inside of you. And I know it can be tough to let that out, and it can be tough when other people don't see it. But we're going to have a good year. It's not going to be perfect, but we're going to have a good year because there is something very special about you. And it was like he froze. And he goes on. And, over that year, I can honestly say he was my favorite. Now, were there times when he lost his temper? Yes. Were there times when other kids would lie on him and get him into trouble? And I'd say, it's like, look, why don't you tell the teachers that these kids are lying about you? He said, they won't believe me because I'm bad. And I said, no, 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 no. I said, you are not bad. I said, you are very strong because you're getting bullied and yet you still show up. You don't let them break you. I said, the trick is to not allow them to turn you into someone like them. And we spent the whole year. I mean, there were some good days, there were some not so good days. One day he just lost it on the bus and was cursing at me and all this other stuff. And I just held that space for him. And I said, I'm sorry that you're going through a really hard time right now. I am so sorry that I can't help you with this. And you can help yourself. You can calm yourself down. I know you can do it. Just take a breath." And it took me like about like maybe almost 10 minutes. And the teachers were saying, write him up. And I'm like, stop. Because I could see in his face once he had escalated, he was no longer in charge. And what I saw in his eyes were fear. It was fear. And the fact that he was lashing out at me and he expected that that would make me turn on him. And I said, you know what? I'm not happy. This was not one of our better days on the bus. And I still believe in you. And when I said, I believe in you, and every time that something came up, I'd say, I believe in you. And when he was losing it, I kept saying, I believe in you. And one day he told me that I was the first person, he's in fourth grade, and he had never had an adult say that to him. I believe in you. And that just broke my heart. And that made me even more determined. It's like, no, he is going to know there's at least one adult who believes in him. And, because I figured that way he might learn to actually believe in himself. That was a turning point for him. And I wanted him to understand that he could choose, that he had the power to choose it. And he will always be special in my heart. The realist teacher, uh, the realist teaches were always the best from bus driver to superintendents. Yes, the entire world could hit us. Exactly. A wise man once said, real dreamers dream during the day. I love that. I love that. Yep, venomous. The entire world could hit us. If you were a kid, you had no rights. Always another kick in the butt. Or are we just beyond your social conditioning and grooming they were forcing upon us, and their lies and falsehood they mix with the truth? Exactly. Not yet. At least there's plenty of time to make it to the list. The social conditioning. It's dope Whoopi Goldberg streams under the gaming talk. Okay, first off, AR Ghost Pen. That is an interesting name. I'm very curious how you chose that, because that's like actually kind of cool. Ghost Pen. Our Ghost Pen. I like that name. And it's funny that you bring that up, because there was when I lived up on the mountain, I mean, we didn't have a whole lot. We only had, we didn't have any big stores. We didn't have McDonald's or Starbucks. We had a little market called Johnny's Market that you usually found a possum in, and we had a Foster's Freeze. Now, the guy who owned the Foster's Freeze was thoroughly convinced that I was actually Whoopi Goldberg. And you look, Whoopi! And I'm like, and my son, my oldest son would come up and visit me, and he goes, Mom, that guy thinks you're Whoopi Goldberg. I said, no, he doesn't. He goes, no, Mom, he actually thinks you're Whoopi Goldberg. And after a while, I got tired of trying to convince him. So I let him think I was Whoopi Goldberg. And I'm like, shh, don't tell anybody. And he was so delighted that Whoopi Goldberg came to his Foster's Freeze. Doc is far better than Whoopi ever thought of being. Oh, thank you. Diamond the Pagan! Talk about a ghost from Christmas past who we have not seen in a month of Sundays, or a dog's age. Howdy. Howdy. Hello, sweetheart. How have you been? What is up? What is happening? I hope you've been walking gently with the world, and the world has been walking gently with you. And Ghost Pen, I'm still wanting to hear about how you picked your name. I think that's very cool. And I mean, it really is. And in some cases, a lot of that, that adult negative self-talk that we have as grown-ups, that's where it started when we were kids. Maybe we had siblings who were far better at a lot of stuff than we were. Maybe, we always got compared to, other family members or other friends. Maybe we marched to the tune of a different drum. maybe we were a little bit more sensitive to the world around us. It's like, that whole thing where people say, oh, they're too sensitive. They're too sensitive. It's like, you know what? I think there's no such thing as too sensitive. And I think the level of sensitivity that someone has is directly related to how safe they feel. You can be very sensitive, but if you're in a place that's safe, it all falls into balance. But if you're around people who judge you for it, who treat it like it's a bad thing, it's like, you know what? Being able to have that sense of empathy with others, that's not a weakness. And in fact, it takes a very, very, very strong person to be able to be empathic, because a lot of people view it as weakness. They view it as something that needs to change. They view it as something that makes you less strong. It takes a very strong spirit. Oh my God, 245 biddies. Thank you so much, Big Bruce. And there's a lot of people who are adults who, deal with that judgment from other people because they want to label something that makes you better able to connect. Because empathy goes, I mean, if you go to my YouTube page, I did an entire year talking about what it truly meant to be empathic. It's the ability to resonate with any frequency. Most humans express our frequency through our emotions, but empathy is not limited to emotions. It is limited to, or it's not limited. It is something that connects you to everything and everyone. And, what I used to always say is that somebody with unmanaged empathy, because it can be managed, but unmanaged empathy means that you can only be as happy as the least happy person in any given room, because you're going to resonate with that person, and they're going to resonate with you to a point where they're going to come find you and trauma dump. But it takes a lot of strength to be able to connect and not lock it down and not shut it down and not turn it into something, because there are such things as narcissistic empaths who use their empathy as a weapon. And that is very sad, because that is a gift that should never, ever, ever be used as a weapon. Let's see. Mother Earth has been kicking my booty, and last Wednesday I had both my premolars pulled. Oh my goodness, I am so sorry. Oh, molar stuff. We've recently had quite a few people with tooth stuff going on, with dental stuff going on. And dental stuff is such a pain. Quite literally. Ugh, I'm late. It didn't tell you went live. Oh, well, we've still got a little bit of time on my lunch hour, but we are going to do for Big Bruce's cheered with 245 biddies. Love Train for King Bruce. Generosity. Sweetness. Awesome stuff. Yes! Oh, Your Majesty, thank you so much. Anyway, so, when I think that there probably isn't anybody who will look back on their childhood and not have at least a few of those moments where an adult, and sometimes it was an adult that loves us, and their approach was not always loving. It was not always considerate. They felt it's like, well, they've got to learn boundaries. They've got to learn their place. They've got to learn to. What do you actually teach somebody by criticizing them consistently? By not acknowledging the amazing being that they are? By not acknowledging that, I have a niece and she has two young ones. And I told her, I said, you know what? You are an old wise person in training. And by the way, so are your kids. And she liked that. She thought that was cool. I said, and being in training means that you all deserve grace, because it takes a while to learn that. I said it took me 6 decades to learn it. And being able to instill in kids, it's you are a divine being having a human experience. Let me say that again. You, right there, are a divine being having a human experience. And in my mind, that is about learning, those human experiences actually put us into connection with that divine part of ourselves, that that highest possible form of ourselves. We reach it by learning everything we can about our own humanity. And sometimes that is a very tough thing. And learning to instill that in children, for them to learn to have grace with themselves, for them to learn to be able to stand up to a level of bullying that we didn't have. It's rough. Let's see. Grandpa taught me walk with a gentle heart and calloused hands, but be wise enough to know which is needed. Diamond. I love that. See, I want y'all to take all these wise things, put it over in inspiring thoughts. Everybody, all these wise things that you're saying, I want to see them in inspiring thoughts. Diamond, that definitely goes over there. It's one thing to see people, it's a whole different thing when you feel everyone's soul. Yeah. The problem is we did not understand, one, our world, and two, the world they were from. Venomous. Ding, ding, ding. I have a streamer friend. He's doing a birthday subathon at 10% of it will go to Crohn's research since the stream has Crohn's himself. Ah, very cool. I mean, if you want, you can post the link over and promote yourself and others. That would be very cool. And, put something in for that. And they did not have the tools to understand the errors of their ways. I am a god. I knew it. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. I had to learn how to love myself unconditionally. And the thing is, question, why is it that children have to learn that later? Because that should be one of the first things they learn. That should be how to love yourself unconditionally, to accept, okay, there's a balance. To accept that you are an amazing, wonderful being all on your own. You don't have to earn being loved. You don't have to earn people saying they believe in you. That is your right. That is your birthright. Being a being in this world, and especially a child, you have the right. It should not be a privilege to have the idea that you are worth love, that you are worth being believed in, that you are worthy of all of the most wonderful things in life, that you are perfect as you are, and every day you are going to be more. We can love ourselves as we are and still dream of aspiring to things that are amazing. Every single day that you wake up, you are the apex of your personal development. And by the end of that day, you're even more, just by virtue of whatever you encountered that day, how that day helped you grow. My head is going to explode from all this power in my uncontainable thought process through the labyrinth of an enigmatic mind. I like that, Venomous. I truly like that. Bladella, duck! Bladella, our scion of scouting. Because I know it's recruitment time. Oh, the beginning of, as summer starts to end and they start to put together the recruitment stuff. I know that's a thing. Oh, Venomous. See, the thing is that now that you know you are a divine being having a human experience, as are you all, remember, everybody, All of you, all of you, every single one, including Arby, wherever Oreo is, that's true. And being a divine being, having a human experience, it kind of takes some of the pressure off. Because once we embrace that, it's like if something doesn't go right, it's like, oh, that's a part of my human experience. That's here for me to learn from. Because we do learn more from the things that go, I won't say go wrong, but the way I put it is, I don't say wrong, I say it resulted in an outcome that was not one we were looking for in that situation. It's like, no, this choice, it wasn't a wrong choice. It just gave you an outcome that wasn't the one you were looking for in that situation. Let's see. All the thoughts and prayers for our family as my brother is being deployed tomorrow for 14 months. Abso-freaking-lutely, Bladella. We will keep that loving, wonderful bubble of protection around your brother and all those who go out, who serve, who fall into that category of all gave some and some gave all. And growing up, the child of not one, but two Air Force sergeants. I have a special place in my heart for the military. Let's see. Sometimes I feel like Neo watching the Matrix from ship. You know what? Yeah, that is, Mama Hayes! Howdy, Doc! Oh my goodness! Mama Hayes! How are you, sweetie? Who's a member of my Name is Family fam? How are you, my love? What is up? What's the buzz? Tell me what's happening. And tell me if you're streaming because for everybody in the chat, if you are streaming, please feel free to talk about it in the chat. Now, it won't let you put the links in, but you can go over to Discord. Uh, Go into the Discord. There's a section over there, over there. We have for promote yourself and others, where people can post their streams. And don't let your streams be dreams. And make sure that you're telling the community. Or if you know of somebody who's doing like a charity thing and you want to support it, put it in there. You can put your stream in there. Let us know when you're going to be streaming. What's going on? What's the buzz? Tell us what's happening. Let's see. I got a lot accomplished yesterday. On the upside, I got my workspace decluttered. Yes. Can we get a picture of the new workspace? I even got part of my room done yesterday. Still have a bit more to do. But you have done a whole bunch. Congratulations. Yay. Fist bump. High five. And yeah. I mean, okay. Anybody else have this experience? You've got a room. And it's not even a big room. And you go, you know what? I can get this room done in like an hour. And once you start pulling stuff off shelves and out of closets, it's like a freaking Hermione's bag. Have you ever noticed that once you start pulling stuff out of places, even in a small room, it's like, how did all of this stuff get in here? And it ends up being like 2 or 3 days to get it totally clean. I do not get it. I lived in a cabin that was 460 square feet. It took me almost a month to get it cleaned and packed and donated, donating stuff. It's like, how can there be so much stuff in a small space, but once you start pulling it out, like I said, it's like Hermione's bag. I've been okay. How have you been? I've been awesome and even a little bit better to see your name light up again. It is the last week of summer school. So this is I've only got 4 more times to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. until school starts. So that is very exciting to me. Now I'm also the janitor for the bus yard. So I still have to go in each day, but I only have to go in for 2 hours, and then I get to come home and relax. But I don't have to get up at 3 in the morning. I'm so happy. And I will miss my kids. I will, that you're the nicest bus driver, because this morning, and it was raining. I had a roll of paper towels, and as the kids got on the bus, it's like, okay, here, wipe your arms off. You can wipe your face off. Anybody who needs to wipe off a seat, let me know. You can, and I'll give you some paper towels. And it's like, you're so nice. Can you be our bus driver forever? I said, sweetie, I'm just your bus driver for the summer. It's weird here today. I gotten used to Steven being home, and now he's back in school. Yes. Gosh, and how I don't miss those days. Oh my goodness. Yep, it is an interesting sort of balancing act when, you have them home. And I mean, there are some schools that started this week, which I do not understand, but they get out earlier than we do. But, we get out of school like the second week in June, and they go back after, school starts on like the 10th, I think. The 10th, Jason was mentioning that school starts on the 10th. But yes, it is, and how fast they grow though. I mean, I remember when you first came into the stream and Steven was just a little bitty little bit of love, and now, he's getting grown. It's like I've had the desire to just get rid of tons of stuff, but I'm also very sentimental and keep many things because they connect me to my past and people who have gone home to the Lord. Yeah. He goes 4.5 days this week. Yay! And my favorite Pokemon in the house, lurking Psyduck. Happy Monday and happy long weekend to any fellow Canucks. Yes! The last week of summer school, I'm telling you that when I get my my school bus converted to an RV, that's part of my 10-year plan. I am going to, and by then, I'll probably be able to have the option to take the summer off. When you're at a certain point, you don't get the option to have summer school off, that you have to work, in seniority level. I'm not high enough in seniority yet. But yes. And Bruce, oh my gosh, Bruce. I totally get that. And okay, scenario. Um there were a couple of times when I had to evacuate when I lived on the mountain. And I had a Subaru Outback. And I had a dog and a cat. And, it's like I had my box of important paperwork, like, my passport, my birth certificates, all that kind of stuff, bank statements, credit card statements. But then, other than that, I had to decide what I would take. And there is something that is actually, I mean, okay, if you had, say, an hour and you were told you had to evacuate, and there was a good chance that whatever you left would be gone when you got back, maybe a flood, maybe a fire or whatever. What do you think would be most important? And you had to fit everything into your car. And like I said, you had you have the things that you definitely need. But just out of curiosity, what would be some of the things, because, and if you have pets, you got to get pets in there. But for whatever room you have left, what would be the most important thing that you would take out of all the things that you want to take? Because you can't take everything. And, you know, I I think there were 4 times that I had to evacuate off the mountain, and twice due to fires. And both times we were told that we probably, oh, hey, Oreo. Oreo, hello. Oreo likes to visit. That's Oreo. Anyway, um, but just think about it. And for some people, that's a very upsetting thought. So if it's a very upsetting thought for you, then set it aside. But just consider, I mean, even walking around and looking, if you had to leave in your car and considering how much space you need, hello, how much space you need for the absolute necessary stuff. Oreo is so pretty. Well, right now, Oreo is not happy because I don't have his cat video on the TV. Oreo likes his cat video. And the thing is that, for him, yeah, and with the cat, for those of you who don't know what I mean by cat videos, they are videos that show like, birds and things like that. And he will sit for hours, literal hours, and watch the TV because I guess to him it's like looking out a window and seeing birds and squirrels right outside. Uh Upsetting thoughts are often the key to open the gateway to overcoming said thoughts. Put that over in inspiring thoughts. That's that is absolutely true. Because the thing is they push our edges for a reason. And sometimes it's in those uncomfortable thoughts and in those uncomfortable places that we really get real with what it is that drives us, what it is that we truly fear. And, I have a very dear friend who, in, the fires in California, in Paradise, California, where basically fire took out pretty much the entire town. And a lot of people left. And those that stayed had to rebuild. And my friend, she had a house full of memories. Her and her husband had been married for like 30 years, baby pictures. And the thing is, because the fire moved so fast, it was far away. And they said, oh, well, it's not going to be a problem. It's not going to be a problem. It's way far away. And that fire was moving at a football field per second. And anybody who has seen how fast fire can move, because it was very dry and it just ran. And the fire was like 10 miles away. And in less than an hour, it was at the very back of their property. And they had like a huge property. So they just barely got out with the pets. They were able to get out. And unfortunately, three of the cats didn't make it because they couldn't find them. And so they get out, and the way she described it, it was pitch black. I mean, this was like at noon, and it was pitch black. And you could hear like propane tanks exploding around you. And I can only imagine how horrifying that was. And even more horrifying was to come back and find the house they dreamed of, because this was Paradise was where her husband grew up, and she lived not that far away. And they lost everything, all of the memories, all of the things that were a part of their family story, all the baby pictures, wedding pictures, gifts from family members who had passed. Everything was gone. And that is I can not even get my head wrapped around how traumatizing that would be. At least I had enough. Well, as soon as they said, it was like the fire and it was actually still quite a ways away, I packed my car because it's like, nope, I ain't nobody's hero. I was going to get the heck out of Hooterville early. And just as I was finishing packing up the car, all of a sudden I felt hot ash raining down. And apparently the wind had shifted and the fire was barreling down on where we were with a vengeance. Fire Nutter, you made it before we finished. And, when we have like those big things happen, there is a part of us, in my opinion, that goes back to being a child. We're scared by the big scary thing. And sometimes, now I was raised military. So I was raised with constantly, it's like, okay, if this happens, then you do this, you do this, you do this. So there was always that sense of training and being prepared and all of that stuff. But, a lot of people aren't raised that way and they panic. And, one of my neighbors, and I'd mentioned this before, she had no car and she had her cat, she had her laptop, and she had a box of stuff. And I said, well, how are you getting out? And she looked at me and she goes, I don't know. I don't know. And so I started pulling stuff out of my car and, because it's like, going through that thing, okay, getting in the stuff that I needed most, but I knew she needed that space. So I left things. I pulled out the baby pictures and the family pictures and the family albums because I thought to myself, okay, if I lose that, she still makes it out. And then she was going to argue with me about it. And I go, shut up, get your cat, get your boxes, put them in the car. We're out of here. We're leaving. Get your stuff. And she felt so bad about it. But it's like, I said, feel bad later. Now is the time we leave. We've got to get moving. And it was, yeah, sorry about Sunday. I was super out of it. And as for today, I didn't get the notification till now. You know what? You're the second person who said that there wasn't a notification. Maybe I have to check on. I mean, I don't know if there's anything on my end that does that, but Fire Nut or Captain Firebeard, you don't have to apologize for not being here because anytime if people aren't here, that means they're out living life. And I love that. I love that for you because then you can come back and tell us about all the stuff you did. I did not remove your notification. Venomous. See, now that you find out you're a deity, it's like, oh, you're messing with people. Yep. Altering reality. Oh, by the way, for those of you who may have forgotten, um, anytime you create something, you change the fabric of reality in the entire universe. I bet you didn't know you could do that. I bet you did not know you had the power to change the fabric of reality. Because if you so much as draw a smiley face on a piece of paper, bake a muffin, or write a poem, or whatever it is, you draw a single dot on a piece of paper, you have changed the fabric of reality because that thing, even if it's just a dot, it never existed anywhere in the universe until you made it exist, until you brought it from here to here. It's like throwing a stone in a still lake. You're going to get the ripples, it's going to get calm again, but that stone is still there and it will always be changed based on the fact that now that stone is there. So I bet, unless it was already written, yeah, but the version you did, I mean, you could put "Have a nice day" on a piece of paper, and we know how often people are, how long people have been saying "Have a nice day." But the one that you made, you could draw a smiley face on a napkin in a restaurant. And while a gazillion smiley faces have been drawn, that particular one was not one of them. That's new in the universe. You brought it into the universe. You brought it into reality. You changed the universe by dropping a stone into a still lake. And after the ripples stop and it's all still again, the stone that you put in will always have changed it. Which is why I feel it's really important that people realize how powerful they are. People have the power to make or break another human being just with a few words. And going back to children, us adults have the power to build something amazing in a child. to have them believe in the magic that exists within them because it does. Or words can have them believe they will never be good enough, that their dreams are silly, that it's not okay, that they're not okay. Yeah, power is you know, is a big thing. We must use it wisely. By the way, player level 850 on my main Roblox game. Yay! I mean, as in if it was already on the timeline. That is true. I mean, and getting into the whole timeline thing now, my personal belief is that time is not like a line. Time is like a ball of yarn. And if you take, if you've ever, rolled a ball of yarn and then you take like a long needle or something and you poke it through it, you're only touching one strand, but you're touching it at different places, at different points. And to me, that's what time is. That is what time is. Time exists all at once, past, present, and future are all existing right now, except they're in different realms of reality. So, I mean, so that's because that's what I think deja vu is. Deja vu, in my mind, is not about, like, oh, I'm experiencing something that feels like I've experienced it before. It's like, no, to me, deja vu is when those lines intersect and we're in two different realities at once. We're in the present and in the past at the same time, or we're in the future and the present at the same time. So, or I could be nuts. Drawing a smiley face on a napkin does not mean it's happy. It was forced to smile for you. Oh, well, Fire Nutter, you always make us smile. Deep. PBJ pineapple, just to trigger you a bit more. Makes sense. I like it. And the thing is, when you really own that within yourself, that idea that all time is happening at the same time, maybe, just maybe, with a little bit of work, you can learn how to cross strands. You can learn how to tap into other aspects of yourself because each one of those lines is an aspect of you. It's like when you dream, and I call them not dreams. And I have since I was a child because there are the dreams that are like regular dreams. But if you ever had a dream that had a very weird sense of reality to it, that while you were in it, it felt real. And when you woke up, it just kind of stayed with you as if it were a memory, that there was something fundamentally concrete about it. And to me, those are the times when, especially in the dream time, when we cross that, when we cross into another reality, another timeline of ourselves. And there were books written about this. There was Spirit Walker, what is it? Spirit Walker, Medicine Maker. Anyway, there was a guy who wrote stories about connecting with another being, which was like, like another aspect of himself that was in a totally different timeline in the future, and they actually began to interact, which is very, very cool. Let's see. Maybe do a test stream later for the notification's sake, just to be sure, not saying it's on your end, but it's always good to check if there are things up and up anyhow. That is true. And on that note, I just noticed that it is we're at just over an hour, and I've got just enough time to probably, maybe have a PB&J or something, but to have some lunch, and then I've got to get back to work. So that's the end of our power hour for today, but we will be back tomorrow, and hopefully the island hasn't flooded by then. We'll keep a good thought. And in the meantime, please, 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 please remember that you are the only you in all the universe. You're the only you that's ever been and the only you that will ever be. And what that does is it makes you special, it makes you sacred, and most of all, it makes you necessary. Because as the only you in all of the universe wouldn't be the same or complete without you. So, everyone, have an amazing morning, afternoon, evening, or night, whichever applies. May you walk gently with the world. May the world walk gently with you. And as always, I wish you balance and I wish you blessings from my heart to yours. So, have a good day. Learn something new. I'm proud of you and I love you. And if it's raining where you are, be careful out there. With love. All righty, everybody take care. We'll see you tomorrow. Same bad time, same bad station. Bye.
Emerald Queen, where the game